Our next speaker is Professor Joel Cuello. He's a professor at the University of Arizona. And we have tech working. We are ready to go. We're hitting record on Zoom.
Right.
Joel, it's off to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me here, and thank you for being here. Welcome to the University of Arizona Biosphere 2. So today I'm going to talk about infinite agriculture for advanced off-world analogs. Sorry, I can't see the screen too much. So the last panel discussion was really quite fascinating, talking about, human health in an off-world setting. Now I'm going to talk about food production. So we have an urgent off-world grand challenge, and that is the design of space life support, including food production, of course. And this is one of the goals really of analogs that are Earth-based, is to be able to design the environment that would enable long-duration crewed mission in an off-world setting. And of course, this is not entirely new because NASA, for instance, has been working on this for decades now. And even the former USSR also was a pioneer in terms of looking into cells, or what they refer to as closed ecological life support system. I did my postdoctoral fellowship sponsored by the U.S. National Research Council at Kennedy Space Center after I earned my PhD in biosystems engineering at Penn State. So I moved to Cape Canaveral, and I was in the CELS, or Controlled Ecological Life Support division at Kennedy, and I performed research there before I moved here to the University of Arizona, and that's been 29 years now that I've been here. And that's a photo of me back in 1994. So anyway, before we talk about the needs for extraterrestrial habitats, let's go back to our home planet first, because really there's quite a number of innovations that have emerged, particularly in the last 5 years or so, that really would be directly responsive to the needs of humans in an extraterrestrial environment going forward. So a mirror challenge actually exists right here on Earth, and that is there's an urgent planetary grand challenge, which is food. And that's a huge part because we're now 8.1 billion people occupying the planet. The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, for instance, make a projection that to be able to meet the food demand by the middle of the century, we need to increase our food production by 70%. In terms of crop production, it needs to be doubled. So it has to increase by 100%. But that is quite a tall challenge because already our current food production system is responsible for 70% of all freshwater withdrawals. And we're already utilizing about half of all habitable land for food production. And food production, as well as the supply chain, requires about 30% of all energy expenditures on a yearly basis. So just imagine if we're going to increase our food production by another 70% in the next 30 years or so, where do we get all the fresh water, as well as the habitable land and the energy that's required? So it's a tall challenge. And the only way that this could be met is by innovating and not relying on the current mechanisms or ways or means of producing food. Oh, and on top of that, there is climate change, which really has been disrupting weather events everywhere on the planet. And of course, it's been impacting deleteriously food production everywhere. But fortunately, we are innovators. And there's been a lot of innovation, again, that has emerged in the last 5 years or 10 years. In reality, these innovations have been in the works for many, many years, decades. But now, because of the convergence of technology and opportunities and the challenges and the heightened need for them, entrepreneurs really have risen to the occasion, and they brought these ideas or technologies or innovations to a much higher level today. So I refer to them collectively as infinite agriculture. And they're defined by these four characteristics. They are regenerative and circular, they're self-perpetuating, they're closed loop, and they are controlled environment. So this is in huge contradistinction with conventional agriculture, which is in the open field, and thereby is subject to the vicissitudes of the changing climate. So let me just give you some examples of what these infinite agricultural innovations are. The first one is vertical farming, and you probably are familiar with this. This is a classic photograph that embodies vertical farming. This is one in Japan. So in vertical farming, it's indoors, closed environment. You're not relying on the sun for the light. The light is supplied using an electric light source, typically light emitting diodes. And so, of course, you regulate your light intensity, you regulate your photo period, you regulate your light quality or the colors of the light. And this is a soilless operation. So you supply the nutrients using hydroponic system. That is, the nutrients are dissolved in water, and then you supply that water to the crops. Another one is that the plants are growing in shelves that are stacked one on top of another. And so therefore, you're able to really increase significantly your productivity with a much less land area requirement. And then the ambient environment is also regulated in terms of temperature, relative humidity, and other parameters as well. So in other words, this is highly optimized. And as a result, you get the highest productivity and the highest quality of the crops being produced. And you can do this operation 24/7, 365 days a year. So effectively, you have divorced your crop production from geography, from the weather, from the climate, and from the season. So it's a very powerful innovation. And so it's one that is really ideal for the extraterrestrial environment, but it's something that we need here on Earth as well. This is a commercial vertical farm in Japan. It's called Spread. And yeah, you can see how much lettuce crops they're producing on an annual basis. This one is American. That's Era Farms, which is based in New Jersey, but they're establishing branches now in different places. They even have presence now in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. And that's you can see the photo of the factory where they have this setup. Another notable company in vertical farming is Plenty. The beauty of this as well is you've got sensors, you monitor all of these environmental factors, humidity, pH, light, dissolved oxygen, water, and so on and so forth. And you can apply, of course, data analytics and even artificial intelligence to be able to come up with the optimal recipe or combination of all of these environmental parameters and apply them so that, again, you're able to optimize your crop productivity and your crop quality. And you can even use this to optimize a given crop in terms of its nutrient profile, as well as its flavor profile. And you can tailor that to particular groups of customers. So you can tailor them towards senior folks, or maybe children, or adults with certain medical needs. And these are the advantages. You save about 80 to 95% of water. You don't need any arable land, requires significantly less land area, less fertilizer, no pesticides, optimal productivity consistently 24/7, 365 days, independent of location, climate, weather, and season. The next example is lab-grown meat and lab-grown seafoods. You probably heard of this as well. So the synonym for that is cultivated meat. Sometimes it's called cultured meat or clean meat. So this is not the veggie meat. This is real meat, except that in terms of growing the entire animal, you get cells from the animal and you grow them in petri dishes in the lab, and you mass produce them in bioreactors. You harvest the cells, and then you use food technology strategies to come up with a final food product. So these are real animal cells. And you save tremendously on on water, for instance, or on land and other inputs. So it's a much more sustainable process. And it's something that really lends itself to space applications because growing animals in space is going to be really, really challenging. All right. So by the way, this is Mark Post is a professor at Maastricht University in the Netherlands. He was not the one who invented this method of lab-grown meat, but he was the one who revisited it a few years back and then now has really popularized it and brought it to the 21st century. So yeah, you save on greenhouse gas emissions, land use, as well as energy input. All right. And now it's being commercialized. There's quite a number of companies now that are really into this. That's a bioreactor wherein you mass produce the animal cells. Oh, I'm going back. All right. So this is in Singapore, Eat Just, which I think is an American company. It's the very first lab-grown chicken company that's been given officially license to commercialize their product in a country, and that's Singapore. So it's been approved. And even here in the United States last year, these two companies, Upside Foods and Good Meat, have been given a license by the USDA and the FDA to commercialize their lab-grown chicken in the United States. So I don't know if they're released yet, but as soon as they're released, I would like to get hold of them. This is Mark Post, whom I met at a conference in Germany about 2 years ago. This is just to show you an example. It's not just chicken, it's not just beef, but even seafoods can actually now be produced using cellular agriculture, which is another name for or term for cell-based seafood or meat. And there are now companies that are commercializing this as well. So again, this really is very appropriate and ideal for extraterrestrial applications. And they have the same set of advantages. Next example is mycelium or mushroom food products. This is a company, Infinite Roots, that is based in Hamburg in Germany. We all eat mushrooms here, I suppose. But what we know as mushroom is the fruiting body of this particular mycelium, which is a fungus. But the strategy of this company is instead of growing the fruiting body, they're just growing the mycelia. And they're growing them in liquid cultures and mass producing them, again, in bioreactors, which are highly efficient. So you don't need any field, you don't need any mushroom facility that is indoors. It's basically a factory, really, a warehouse, and you've got these bioreactors, which can be operated quite efficiently. And they harvest the mycelia, and then again, they transform the mycelia or convert it into a food product, in this case, meatballs, except that they're not made of meat, they're made of mushroom. And so you don't have to worry about cholesterol. And they have vitamins that are not present in meat products as well. And again, they've got the same advantages here. This was in Germany 2 years ago where we had a retreat and I was invited and I got to meet the CEO of the company. And now, just recently, actually, they raised $58 million to further develop this and commercialize it. So this is not science fiction anymore at all. This is reality. This commercial reality. There's an American company called Ecovative, and they're using mycelia as well to produce food products such as bacon, except it's not made of pork. But they're also using this for producing materials such as packaging foam or even leather. Okay, and the last example I'm going to give you, and there are many more, is microalgae food products. So this is a burger patty, but it's not made of meat. It's made of microalgae. This is a company called Sophie's Bionutrients, which started in Singapore, but it's actually Taiwanese company, and it now has presence in the Netherlands as well. So some of their products include burger patty as well as crab cakes, except they're not made of crabs. They're made of algae. So the algae species that they're using is chlorella, which is well known, of course, as for food supplements. They're rich in vitamin B12, for instance, and of course, protein content as well. So what they do is they mass produce the microalgae or the chlorella in this case in bioreactors, and then they harvest the cells, and then they turn them into flour. And then they use some regular extrusion methods to be able to turn that flour into a final food product, such as a burger patty. Okay, so these are some of the nutrient characteristics of the resulting burger patty. And in my case, I have a laboratory at the University of Arizona, and my lab group has been very active in designing original bioreactors for microalgae, and we've been doing this now for over a decade. And so we came up with our own original bioreactors as well that are high in terms of productivity and quite efficient and low cost. And now there are other companies as well here in North America, one in San Diego, the other one is in Halifax, I believe in Canada, that's using microalgae for producing meat products, but they're made of algae. All right, and they've got the same sustainability advantages as well. All right. And as this is being developed, this sector of the food industry, this is actually going to benefit the earth tremendously because of all of those sustainability features. And so it really has the potential to help rebalance the earth's global food system, which at this point is really heavily biased toward the green revolution type of food production, open fields, highly intensive input in terms of fertilizers, in terms of pesticides and herbicides, and using irrigation, which is very much intensive in terms of water consumption as well. So this will be very helpful for our planet, but again, at the same time, it's applicable for space applications. All right. So again, the thing about what we're talking about here is in terms of the need of the earth for more sustainable food systems, as well as the future need of human habitats on the moon and Mars and beyond are really compatible in that, and they talk to one another. They are mutually informing in terms of the need for efficiency, productivity, and sustainability. And so, about space analogs on the Earth, they are very important because they are needed in terms of being able to develop the technologies that are needed for space life support. But at the same time, I'm arguing here that these analogs are actually quite crucial in terms of serving as test beds for infinite agriculture innovations, both for Earth and the extraterrestrial environment. So it's very hard to classify analogs because they come in different shapes, different sizes, different designs, different architectures. But one thing that is common among them is their life support system. And there are ways to classify now life support systems, and this is what I'm putting forward here. We can classify them into 4 levels. The first level is physical chemical exclusively. So this is really for very short-term, relatively short-term missions. So everything is controlled physical-chemically, yes. Then the second level would be physical, chemical, and bioregenerative. So the bioregenerative here pertains to collecting biological waste from the astronauts and then using, for instance, anaerobic digestion to be able to process the waste, convert that into energy like methane, which of course can be used within the analog, and also produce nutrients which can be used for growing crops. So it makes sense that the next level, level 3, is physical, chemical, bioregenerative, and food production limited to crop production. And of course, you can grow the crops hydroponically, aeroponically, or I don't know, if you're partial to soil, you can use soil as well. But now you have a source of nutrients for growing the crops. And then the most advanced level is level 4, which is, and it's not showing here, but it's showing on the screen, physical, chemical, bioregenerative, and food production, which is crops plus infinite agriculture innovations. And this is really a powerful concept for analogs, because then they then become test beds for infinite agriculture innovations, not only for extraterrestrial environment, but even here for our home planet. And we need that here on the planet as well. I don't know how much time I have, but I'm just going to share this to you real quickly, maybe in 1 or 2 minutes. These are some of the innovations, original innovations that we developed in my laboratory here at the University of Arizona that can be used both in Earth-based analogs as well as in future space applications. One is called the V-Hive Green Box. So essentially, it's a hydroponic system that is modular and can be collapsible as well. And that really optimizes the crop productivity per unit volume. Another one is this intelligent aeroponic microgravity and earth nutrient delivery system. So when you're at LEO, you have zero gravity, right? So water or liquid is really behaving weirdly. And then if you're on the moon or Mars, there is gravity, but it's microgravity. And so that would still impact the fluid mechanics of water. And so how do you handle that when you're going to grow crops using hydroponic nutrient solution? So one way to go about that is through this innovation that we came up with, and we're using basically bursts of airstream to be able to guide the water, which now coalesce into spears or bubbles, guiding it through the root mass, forcing it through the root mass. So there's physical contact between the roots and the nutrient or the liquid bubbles or particles. Okay. Another one is Life Grow bots. So these are programmable moving bots, essentially. And on top of them are hydroponic growing systems. So you can command them, or they can go about remotely. And then, of course, microalgae bioreactors, which I mentioned earlier. So we have quite a number of these bioreactors now. And we even have organ culture bioreactors. So these are roots. Think about, I don't know, maybe some astronauts would fancy ginseng tea while they are on the moon or Mars. Well, then you can grow the roots in bioreactors. And lastly, the hybrid solar and electric lighting system. This was a NASA-sponsored project that I worked on when I was new here at the University of Arizona. Basically, trying to harness as much solar radiation is available on the moon or Mars. And that's not enough, so you have to supplement it with electric lighting sources. But it may be that the supply of electricity in space would be quite limited. So it's important to be able to harness as much light energy as available on the surface of the moon or Mars for crop production. And lastly, it's the boring vertical farm. Boring is an acronym for burrowing and regenerative in-ground vertical farm. And I co-invented this with 2 of my industry colleagues. So on the moon or Mars, there's a lot of radiation. And so one way to avoid that is to establish your human station or colony or the vertical farming system underground in lava tubes, for instance. And there are lava tubes both on the moon and Mars. So that's just one representation of the boring or the tunneling vertical farm that we have, again, in combination with those mover bots, so that as much as possible, everything could be controlled remotely to save on the labor for food production. These are just renditions. Okay, so the take-home message I would like to impart to you is that off-world analogs are also test beds for infinite agriculture innovations, both for Earth and the extraterrestrial environment. Thank you much for your time.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for? Yes, okay, hold on a second. There should be a second microphone here. Yes.
All right, thank you so much. It is a pleasure to hear the future. I have an agriculture science initiative program right now that's operating in the school system, probably about 7 states right now, and California, New York, North Carolina. So we have kids learning from 3 years old to 12. I've partnered with USDA 4-H program as well. So we need to talk. You and I need to talk.
Okay, sure.
So right now
Happy to.
it's not a thought, it's receipts. I have this. This is what we're doing. So we need to move these young men and young ladies from the future, from first grade, from K to the moon, because the folks who's going to be taking these missions probably are in elementary school right now.
And I think you're correct on that.
Right. So I
yes.
have access to 131,000 schools in the nation. So with this and what's going on around the country, we need to talk.
Absolutely, yes.
All right. So
happy to.
Other question, are you a land grant college?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
All right. So I'm dealing with land grant colleges for HBCU. So now I want to talk about the 1862 and the 1890 land grants. So let's talk.
All right. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Yes, hold on.
My name's Rebecca, and it was very nice hearing your talk. I just wanted to know how many of these food products have you personally tried?
Yeah, thank you. The microalgae I have, but the cell-based meat or the lab-grown meat, I have not yet tasted them because I haven't had access to them yet. But the first time that they come out of the market, I'll get my hands on them. Yeah, please.
Hi, I really like all of the methodologies. I'm thinking about some of the political challenges, and how, let's say, maybe university partnerships can get around some of this. By that I mean, we have so many countries that are going through disasters, right? And then food is being shipped from point A to point B. You have some countries where you have refugees there for like years and years and years. And there's a political thing where they don't want to actually have the people farm. So in terms of some of your technologies, how can we think through maybe maybe partnering with maybe some of the smaller islands to do like a portable system that eventually can politically make it back into some of these climate refugee situations or flooding refugee situations? Because I don't see the point of shipping food from point A to point B. The people are there for like 6-9 months. And then when the rice comes, they're like fighting each other like animals.
Right.
They're sitting down there in the camps doing nothing. These are ways in which humans can be treated with dignity while their lives are being repaired. So how can we really think through tying this technology now to the human solution, not so much bearing in mind the real political realities of governments not wanting to actually accept that there are technological things that can be done to solve the problem.
Yes. Thank you for asking that because that's a very important question that you asked. And yes, this needs to be addressed because these innovations are now being commercialized. And we're here on the planet. So one risk of or unintended consequence of this lab-grown meat and other innovations belonging to infinite agriculture is that it could widen the gap between the countries that are the haves versus the not have countries in terms of technology and innovation. So let's face it, a lot of these infinite agriculture innovations are taking place and are being developed in advanced economies. And now they're starting to commercialize them. And so that could create that economic gap between, again, the advanced economies as well as the emerging economies. And so to me, what's needed really is for there to be capacity building and capacity enhancement that needs to happen, an outreach, if you will. Who's going to do that or is going to initiate that? I'm thinking, I don't know, USAID, the FAO, all of these international organizations, but that needs to happen. And I think that every government as well needs to be proactive in terms of being able to learn and acquire the same innovations as well. Because otherwise, countries could be left behind. Now, the great thing about these innovations, as I mentioned, is that they're independent of geography, of the weather, of the season, and especially of the climate, because the climate now is really problematic. So imagine if if these innovations are only confined to the developed economies and the climate gets crazy, and they're the only ones who are able to produce these food products. That would not be very good because then the emerging economies would be completely left out. So there's a lot of thinking that needs to be done on the social side as this thing unfolds. Thank you.